We're in PAX East in Boston. We're with Ted from Nerd Immersion, Claudia, and myself. And we were talking about stuff that we were doing here, and we had some scheduling time to figure this out. So we wanted to sit down with Ted and talk about everything, conventions,
Sure.
Your place right now on the community. So we were talking earlier about how you started coming to this whole hobby, I guess, because it's a mix of all the things, right? Like PAX East is video games in general, but now it's expanded to entertainment, games, board games, TTRPGs. So let's talk about how you got into it, because I know of the cosplay stuff. I don't know if that's really like the seed of Ted.
Sure, yeah. So I started going to conventions, we treated it for fun. I think back in 2011, 2012, me and a couple of friends were like, let's just go. They seem like a lot of fun. And then, you go there and it's a crazy experience, your first convention, you're seeing all this stuff, you don't know what's going on. And we met some friends and they did costuming and we did costuming. So we were like, oh, let's all join together. And then they're like, hey, maybe we can do some panels. And hey, PAX East is really good for that. Let's go to that. And then we came here and, we're doing costumes and we're going out, we're playing games and we're having a lot of fun. And then around that time I started the YouTube channel and I was doing mostly cosplay tutorials and convention coverage, kind of just like walk around stuff, or like, I did a lot of filming of the panels because back then they didn't seem to film any like celebrity panels.
That's true.
So I did a lot of that, and then just so that it would be a record of it. And some of those did like relatively well. And then I started trying to do other content, top 10 videos and reviews of games, and I really wanted to do everything. And that was the big problem, because the algorithm hates if you're not focused.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do book reviews and comics and movies and TV shows and video games and tabletop. And then 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons comes out in 2014. So I started playing it, and I hadn't played D&D for a little while at that point. I was like, man, I really missed this. And I started reading through the books, and the books started coming out. And I said,
are you playing anything else at that point?
Just video games,
okay.
MMOs mostly at that point. And yeah, because we had a campaign in 3.5 that just kind of fizzled out like campaigns do. And the starter set came out and I bought that. And I said, I haven't played D&D in probably 10 years. I don't want to run it. I want to play it. So I said to my buddy, I said, hey, look, there's this Court of the Dragon Queens coming out. It's a pre-written campaign. Why don't you take it and you run it? Because I've ran games for you for the past 10 years, so you could do me a favor. And what's crazy, what a lot of people don't even realize with that, is we were playing before there was a monster manual or a Dungeon Master's Guide, because the player's handbook came out and then the adventure, and then they're like, there's magic items, but they're not in the book. So you have to figure out how to go find them in a PDF.
It was a weird.
And yeah, I mean, the adventure was out a month before the monster manual and 2 months before the Dungeon Master's Guide. So there was a free PDF that had all the magic items and the monsters. So if you didn't know to go find that and they weren't in the book, you were just out of luck, which was a really weird marketing strategy. So we started playing, and I was like, as stuff started coming out, I was like, I really think this is worth reviewing. So my buddy who was running it, I was like, let's sit down and just like talk about our experience with 5th edition compared to 3.5, because that's what we knew really well. And I said we could do a comparison.
Yep.
And I was doing top 10 videos, but I was doing them about everything, right? Like it was top 10 Nintendo 64 games, and then like top 10 Pokemon, and then I did top 10 D&D 5e monsters, and that did amazingly better compared to, like, we're talking hundreds versus thousands of views.
Yep.
And I was like, let's continue to try different things, streaming different stuff. And then I was like, wow, this D&D thing really has some legs to it. I'm going to focus on that. And that's kind of where the Nerd Immersion that most people know of like the past 4-ish or so years started, was from that. And then I realized that, hey, I can use that sort of media outlet to come to conventions and talk to people. And then, I used to even do a lot of interviews with folks for like video games because I could, and it was like, I thought like I needed to do that for the media badge.
Yep.
And then I was like, but there's also tabletop people and board games, and I can go talk to them and get their lowdown on stuff. And that's led to kind of where we are today.
How's that right now? Because I do see like you absolutely and you absolutely like D&D. That's where you get most of it, because a lot of it happens. Obviously, it's the most people are looking for it and figuring out like what's your thoughts on it.
Sure.
What do you see? And then you go and you kind of have different ends on what's going on and this. And we see it. Like we're part of a channel that streams in Spanish, and we were like sponsored by D&D on Saturdays and everything. And obviously D&D brings all the people in, because we will do other games. Like we would do like Tales from the Loop, great game.
Sure. Yeah.
We would do we did like Vampire. We played other things, but you can see that difference of engagement from people, because they're like 5th edition. Okay, let's see what's going on. Let's see if I enjoy it, or if they're talking about stuff that's the most agnostic and most engagement and most the audience is way bigger, so it makes sense. But I see that you're kind of like your coverage is always kind of like from the outside, and I don't get it, because like Wizards has not send a line over to you and say, hey, you know, Ted has all this audience and all this, and it's a little bit weird.
They don't like me very much over there, I don't think. Okay. And it's a double-edged sword, right? Because I can be autonomous and do whatever I want,
right? And
they can't take things away from me that they'd ever gave me in the first place.
Yeah.
But they're also not stumbling over themselves to give me stuff to talk about. So, you know, I never, you know, ever thought I would be sort of a investigative journalist, breakneck, you know, news speed guy. But it just kind of started happening. Like the pandemic, really, the channel started to really pick up. And at the start of the pandemic, I was making sure I made a new video every day, because my goal was to make content for folks so that like you could have something else to think about other than the state of the world. And then sometimes that led into like, oh, hey, did you see this thing from D&D? And then I would make a video. And I'm working from home because it's a pandemic, and you know, I got my work laptop and my home computer in front of me, and I'm working, and then like news pops up, I make a quick video and I go back to work. And that was how I could kind of keep up to date on news stuff. And I started to develop this relationship as somebody who's keeping track of all of this news stuff. And it's actually been an amazing experience, because now, I mean, I still do my own research, but more often than not, when something drops, I have 50 messages from a variety of different people saying, hey, did you see this?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, can you give me a source? And then I'll get a link, and then I'll say, okay, let's go look at this, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But so, you know, I do have this audience, and I do see a bunch of people saying like, if I don't hear it from you, I don't hear about it, you know, or I don't see you review it, I don't take it, you know, I don't look at it. And that's mind-blowing to me, that people look to me for anything more than just like some guy who talks about D&D on the internet.
Yeah.
But
there is a lot of it. It's very different. Like the take that you have as you're looking at it and trying to make sense of it as it's happening, because it's never like they announced this thing. It's like you've been talking about it for like 3 weeks. Like this came up, Amazon, the code is there.
Yeah.
Like, there's obviously a hunger for people out there to know what's going on beforehand. So,
and I don't understand why there's not that transparency from Wizards of the Coast. It's not that we're not asking for. We don't want you to tell us every secret. Right. If you could give us a roadmap for 2020, even at this point for 2022, even after the direct, and say, hey, we're going to do a release in June. You already know that that's Radiant Citadel. We're going to do a release in August. You already know that that's Spelljammer. And then we're going to do 3 more books between now and the end of the year. And you know one of those is Dragonlance, and it's going to drop in December. And there's a book in October and November. You don't have to tell us what they are. You don't even have to tell us what the content is, but just let us know, so that we can one, it'll start speculation. We can start talking about what we think it's going to be. Build that hype.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the fact that Magic the Gathering can tell us what they're going to do the next year, like here's going to be this release, so many per quarter. Some of them you might know, some of them will be a secret. You can throw a few more surprises left, kind of a thing. But I mean, at the most, like people need to figure out what they're going to be buying, sort out finances. Last year we had 3 books in 3 months at the end of the year. And if the rules expansion book didn't get delayed, we would have had 4 books in 4 months.
Yeah.
And like, that's a big hit. I mean, that was, you know, three $50 books and a $120 box set in 4 months. That could be huge for people, especially if it's the holidays and you're trying to figure this stuff out. Just let us know. You know, why is it a secret guessing game? Why is, like, the Direct got announced, last week? And it's just like, okay, by the way, I hope you don't have plans next Thursday at 9 a.m. or noon, depending on kind of, you know, whatever your time zone is. And we're going to give you a half an hour of content, which I saw it constantly in my, like, this could have been a tweet. This could have been an email. Like, this didn't need to be, I mean, we had that whole week of, remember the week of Legend lore last week where they announced nothing? And then Ray Winninger tweeted more information than an entire week worth of news.
Ray is literally, like, that's where I get most of the stuff.
Yeah, he responds.
The next 6 months, this is going to happen, then comes back, and he just literally, like, when Dragons of Stormwreck Isle showed up on that presentation, a lot of people were going on about the MSRP, the price, the $49 tag. It was literally, hey, Ray, is it gonna be $50? Is it a different thing or whatever? Maybe it's a mock-up, so we're just seeing something just to show. But he was like, no, the price is wrong. Yeah. Like, immediately we got feedback on it. But it's like, we have that conversation a lot. Like not everyone follows Ray and looks at that.
Exactly.
And then Wizards of the Coast never really, you know, jumped onto that, and then the conversation started going. And you see some negative impact on it because people are like, what are they doing? Like $50 for a starter, what are they putting on it? And what I see over there is not $50. Like, they're just, you know, it's healthy for them to engage and to communicate.
And like I said, there's nothing, I'm not opposed to having that conversation. The reason that I don't think they particularly like me is I've leaked a couple of things on them, but they were, for the most part, I mean, like, the one was the Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. I found that in the D&D Beyond code, which was public facing. Yeah. Anybody could have found it. I just found it first. They didn't like that. D&D Beyond didn't like that. Now they're the same company, so that's whatever. And then there was the stuff for the Monsters of the Multiverse, which I wasn't looking for it, but somebody sent me a whole bunch of pictures on Facebook, and they're like, hey, I got the book early. Here you go. And I was like, well, I'm not going to not report on this. I have it. Yeah. But I don't think they like that. Yeah. But the easiest way to fix that is to just throw me a bone and put me under an NDA, and then I'll cover it when you tell me I can. But if you continue to not, I'm going to continue to do what I do.
Because there is that, they have those events now where they pull people in, and it's like, this is what we're going to be talking about, be ready, you know, in advance, have your reviews and whatever, and the day that we announce it, you know.
You just let it go, yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's, to me, it's just surprising that it makes sense with all the history, I guess.
I mean, but that's very easy to fix. Yeah, all you got to do is ask me,
open the door.
Hey, we're going to ask you to be a part of this, and if you are, that means you can't say anything until we tell you. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but they're not, so I'm not. And that's kind of the relationship that we just kind of coexist, and we don't communicate. Yeah.
And we were talking specifically about D&D Direct before we started recording, and some of the announcements that were done, and how little information they had on them.
A question.
Yeah.
Before, so when any random company announces something they're gonna do you like prepare, like you investigate and like come up to your own like predictions, and then you're like with your notebook like check okay, I was wrong or something?
Yeah, to an extent, yeah. I would say, you know, once I hear something that something's going to be announced, yeah, I'll usually kind of come up with my thoughts in the moment and make a video about it. And then I try to keep track of what's going on. I mean, like we actually did the bingo card thing for the Direct, which was, we thought that Spelljammer was going to get announced, and that was a check. I thought that it was going to be some kind of a box set thing, because there was hints the way people had described it, that it seemed like it might be something more. And it was, so that got checked off. But there was a bunch of other stuff that I thought that they were going to announce that I was just like, yeah, I'm wrong. I thought we were going to get some video game announcement because they put a controller very prominently in their teaser trailer. I thought we were going to get the plot of the movie or a trailer. I thought they were going to talk about the TV show that we know they're developing. Yeah. We didn't get anything for that. I thought we were gonna get like some other funky tie-in from another Stranger Things crossover. They did that. They did the Rick and Morty one. Yep. I thought maybe we would have got like, hey, we're crossing over with, I don't know, some other pop culture thing, or we're doing shoes, D&D shoes, because Magic the Gathering did shoes last year. Why wouldn't they do shoes? I mean, they partnered with Spirit Halloween. They did a cookbook. They're doing all sorts of weird stuff.
Saw the masks that are coming out?
No, I didn't see they're doing masks.
They got together, collaborated with somebody that's their thing. They do masks, and they did like an Illithid, a Beholder, and Benjer from the cartoon.
I'll have to look that up. Yeah, I missed that. But that's what I'm saying. Like, that would have been a fun little joke that they could have worn it during the thing, like as like when they cut back to the hosts, they're wearing the masks and they're like, did you know we're doing this thing? And yeah, I try to formulate my thoughts as best I can when I'm going to look into something, because, I mean, it's two parts, right? Because the internet loves to tell you when you're wrong. They love that. So if I leave something out, they'll tell me which one, and on the analytics side, that drives up engagement, so I'm really okay with it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And if I have to make a follow-up video or take a video down because it was drastically bad, I'll do it. I'm not opposed to making a follow-up video and admitting like, hey, I was totally wrong on this, my bad. And that's happened. I thought there's been books I thought Dragonlance was coming out last year.
Yeah, we did.
And it was Fizzbands, so
yeah.
It is what it is. Some music going on outside.
Got really musical really quick.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you something. What was it?
D&D Direct.
Yeah, I kind of fizzled on it. But so last week we have a podcast in Spanish where we talk about stuff that's happened through the week, and obviously D&D is kind of like the major item that people tune in to talk about. And we were talking about like what we expected, same thing, right? And they asked like, what would you like that you don't know about? And I was like, well, literally anything that I don't know about that will be surprising, fun, interesting. Like, this is the spot. There's a lot of things that we know are coming. Spelljammer is coming. But the video game they've talked about, Whitney Beltran, Strix, she's been working on a second video game that they haven't talked about at all. I thought maybe this is a time where we know what that is. And hopefully something interesting like a Planescape MMORPG or something like that. And it's like, oh man, did not expect that,
Yeah, you could have done an MMO. You could have done a Icewind Dale 3 to follow up with the Baldur's Gate 3. Something that's not like a mobile game, something that's like a real studio is working on building. But then again, like Dark Alliance did not do well.
Yeah.
So they don't have a great track record at this point to show us what they can do.
Right.
You could, Neverwinter Nights 3 would be huge. That would blow people would lose it over that. Something, bring back a classic thing that people love and update it, tie it to new. I mean, you have the Neverwinter MMO, which had an announcement, but I guess that was the controller, because it's like...
I thought Baldur's Gate 3 was gonna, and I don't know if they've said that before, if it's gonna be like cross-platform.
It is not, as I asked Larian pointedly in person, and they're like, I can't tell you. All I can tell you is we want to release it on as many platforms as we can, but right now it's just Steam.
Because last week when I started playing, I was like, I think it's up there where you can play it and enjoy the experience. I don't want to play it and be like all buggy and everything.
Sure.
So last week when I started, it actually had like the latest patch, and it did mention something that got me. It said something like, now you can put the stuff on the cloud, regardless of the platform where you're playing or whatever.
Okay, so maybe.
And I was like, does that mean? And that's what got me thinking. It's like, is this like PlayStation and Xbox and things?
I mean, if it's on Microsoft, if it's on Steam, it could really pretty much be on an Xbox, but. Yeah, they announced. I actually forgot till we just talked about it that Neverwinter's doing, because Neverwinter's an MMO from 2016. It's a 6-year-old MMO. It was built in a 4th edition engine.
Yeah.
And built on the rules were based around 4th edition when they made it anyway. or maybe even be older than 2016. And yeah, they were like, oh, we're gonna do a new expansion about dragon slaying, which seems like it's its own storyline, which is cool.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, and it's already, that is out on PlayStation and Xbox and PC. So I guess that was the controller, which doesn't like, that's not news. It's been out on console for years. Yeah, I just, you know, there were things I would have prioritized, or give more time to Chris Perkins and Tristan Falcone to talk about Spelljammer.
Yeah.
And cut some of the other stuff. Like, don't talk, I mean, you know, I like the Larian Studios guys. Did we need the 10-minute of the guy being walking around and the guy's laying on the floor, you know, Sven's laying on the floor, and they're, like, that was a fun little bit, but you could have given more time to talk about Dragonlance.
Especially with 30 minutes. I don't know where they got.
30 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, limiting yourself to 30 minutes. I was like, why?
Yeah, 45 minutes, an hour, pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
And you could have had more fluff pieces like Baldur's Gate 3 showing like, hey, here's where we've come. And they could have thrown something out there like more news to come from our next panel in, you know, June or whatever you want to say. And then you could have gone, let's talk a little bit more. You know, I'm sure there was more things they wanted to talk about Spelljammer, one or two little snippets, or show off a couple pieces of unique art.
Yeah.
But I mean, they did the Monstrous Compendium, which I can't knock them for throwing out 10 free monsters to everybody, which is huge.
That was interesting that they did that, because obviously there's a lot of conversation right now with them absorbing D&D Beyond. Obviously they have the capability now to turn more content and at least monetize over there, but they can throw those hooks out there exactly like that. Put 10 monsters out, just a taste, and here you go. You got it available immediately, and it's good practices.
Yeah, I mean, that's always some of the best stuff every time you see with it. Whenever Nintendo does their directs, which was a good thing they took from that, is like, and it's available right now. Like, that's huge. That's really good. That gets the hype going. But yeah, I would have liked, you know, somebody brought it up to me and I haven't seen much about it. They mentioned that it was 12 episodes, the Spelljammer.
Yep.
It's a 64-page book. 12 episodes? It's not 12 chapters in 64 pages.
5-page encounters.
That's what I'm saying. Is it that's what some people are throwing in my comments. They're saying, is it 12 encounters and that's the whole thing? Because that is kind of, we also don't know, I don't think we know level range yet.
They did mention.
I don't remember if they said that or not, but
the Spelljammer one is the Adventurous. I think 4 to 8. No, 8 to 18. Or
I don't know.
Something like that. But
I'll have to look it up.
It did offer that it was going to be higher.
Okay,
which is good.
Something for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's also going to be one of the benefits of D&D Beyond, because they'll now have full-blown access to all of the metrics of everything on D&D Beyond, so they can see what classes are being played, what aren't being played, what's the average level of campaigns on D&D Beyond. Is it 5? Is it 15? Yeah. I mean, I guess they kind of always had access to that metrics, but now they're fully in-house and they can really leverage that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
It's fun times.
Yeah.
A lot of news coming up.
Sure, going to be a lot of videos, because a lot of stuff, the next couple months are going to be jam-packed full of stuff, so.
Yeah. And there's still things for those years, so we'll see what those are, because there's books floating around.
There's at least one other book, I think, that we don't know about, because he told us 2 classic campaign settings, and that is confirmed as Spelljammer and Dragonlance, which we know we're going to get. We know we're going to get the starter set in August. We know we're going to get Radiant Citadel in June. And I think there was one other book that was going to have like either an homage or sort of a preview to another classic setting. I think that was it. There might have even been another book, because I have to look back through Ray's long series of tweets to figure out exactly what he said, which again shouldn't be how I have to find this information. It should be very front and center.
It should be just like that, like a track like the Marvel Disney, like this.
Give us the time. Yeah, give us the phase 5 of you know 5th edition, whatever it is. Year 6, year 8 of, and here's our plan. Our roadmap. And you know what, you could even do it like Marvel does. Do it from 2022 through 2024, because we know stuff's changing. You don't have to tell us when, but just give us like here's some things that we told you. I don't know.
I guess there's also like like an inner working of how the studio does, because they've talked about like they have like 5 or 6 books always cooking, and some of them go back, and like they were talking about like Spelljammer has been in process since 2019 or 20.
Sure, yeah.
It's like, sure, somebody had the idea. Chris Perkins had that, and like he had the space clowns.
Sure, yeah. April Fool's Day 2021.
And it's been obviously in there, but then I guess they look at what they're putting out and the response from the audience, or what the voice of the market is, and then try to move things around and what lines up, what's good. So I guess that's why the fence is always so short. But I think it'd be more beneficial than for them to be a difficult process to give us visibility. Because that way like that's coming. I'm interested in that. I'm waiting for that. Also, that loops feedback on people like this Spelljammer. They were all over.
Yeah,
it was a really positive response. Dragonlance gave you very little, so it made more questions of what is it? Is it gonna be this?
It's gonna be it's a property people are very excited about because people love that property. And from what I can tell, it looks like it's an adventure and not a campaign setting. And that's going to make a lot of people upset because, that would be like taking Eberron and making, here's an adventure in Eberron. Same thing with like Curse of Strahd was an adventure in Ravenloft, not a campaign setting.
Yep.
And, again, I can't speak for everybody, but if you had made Spelljammer 3 full-size books and you did your typical thing you charge for your $120, it's 3 books in a slipcase with a DM screen, I would have bought it, and I'm sure a bunch of people would have too. And if you decided to make that the new standard for campaign settings, not for adventures, not for source books, but like you're going to do Dragonlance now, same thing. A book on monsters and adventure, and a book about the lore and the history and maybe player options, right? You do this, you could go back and do it to Eberron, you could go back and do it to the Forgotten Realms, and people would still go out and buy it.
Absolutely.
And again, as long as you're not jam-packing it all together time frame-wise, I would love to have that.
Yeah.
And and then if you want it, and you now own D&D Beyond, you can offer them up individual to purchase on D&D Beyond, so you don't have to buy the whole box set if you don't want it. You can pick and choose what you want in your digital platform, and that would do well. I like to see this concept of 10 free monsters however many times throughout the year, whatever that is, that's big. But a lot of people want to have it printed. I don't know how many people, at least you can download it in a PDF if you get it through the Wizards account, which is something we've almost never seen from Wizards of the Coast, to give us a PDF, especially for free, which again is a good, here's a sign of good faith from us that we're trying to do what you guys want. But again, if you look at the Amazon picture of Spelljammer, it looks like 3 full books, not 3 little 64-page booklets. The front cover and the back cover of a hardcover is going to be the same size as the inside of the book.
Yeah. They kind of look like the World of Darkness smaller books that they put out. And I was like, those are just options, or they're not a very small thing.
Yeah, they're not very fundamental, the whole thing. You look at a changeling or a vampire, and you see the main book and then the little extra books, not all 3 little extra, I don't know.
Yeah, it's we'll see how that comes.
Yeah.
What else? There's a lot going on.
Yeah,
it's an interesting weekend to get to sit down with you.
I also think it's interesting to see that the first day of PAX, when they decided to, Acquisitions Incorporated used to be a huge part of Dungeons and Dragons. It was one of their biggest attractors before Critical Role. And then to see the first day of PAX is when they decide to do their announcement. I wonder if that's sort of like a
synergy,
or if they're trying to say sorry, we don't need you anymore.
I didn't even think about it, but probably today, because that game is today at 8. It's gonna be Spelljammer.
It probably will be.
So because that's what they do every year. They have a theme for it, and it kind of connects. So that makes sense. I was gonna say for Dragonlance, what's your thoughts on all the stuff going on? Ways is jumping in there and being kind of like sassy with the comments. And there was this vitriol between, I mean, there was the lawsuit, there was all this conversation. Suddenly they found out like a path forward, and it's like, you do your thing with Legends and we do our thing because Dragonlance is ours.
Yeah.
So there is a separation. There's a lot of people that are not happy with that. And it's like, how can you not invite like Hickman and Weiss? And it feels like that also kind of makes it like a tough, but I don't know. It's like a tough topic to address and to give more information, because it can also alienate people that are like, I like my Dragonlance for what I, you know.
I mean, the fact that I got a chance to interview and sit down with the Hickmans last year, which was just a wild experience to even be able to do that. And I was like, what do you guys think about Fizban's Treasury of Dragons? It's using your character Fizban. And they're like, we haven't seen it. They didn't even ask us.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, but the novel's coming out. Yeah. And they kind of made it seem like Dragonlance might be coming. But yeah, it doesn't really seem like... The Hickmans seem like they're very different than Margaret Weiss seems to be.
Yeah.
And I haven't, for the fact that like they put out a Kickstarter, a 5e Kickstarter, the Hickmans, to do their own setting. And then Weiss is just whatever.
Yep.
I don't know. It's interesting. You feel like there has to be some kind of bad blood there for them to have gone through the, like, we're gonna sue you. There's an open lawsuit because of the way this is being handled, and then like it just gets wiped under the rug, no big deal, and then like everything's fine now. It's coming out. I mean, I don't think we'll ever know what actually happened.
We'll see it 5 years from now. Some book.
Yeah, maybe we'll get a book like an autobiography or something where
War of the Dragon.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's true. We might see something like that after it's all long and been done. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's interesting to see how they would, why would you go? It seemed like they kind of jumped to lawsuit. Seemed to be like, again, completely on the outside, no inside information. It didn't seem like there was even an attempt to reconcile. They just went to the lawyers first. And then, like, I don't know if that was whose strategy that was to go to legal.
Yeah. And,
like, did it end up being better? Did somebody get a settlement and get some money out of it to just leave it and not go to court?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because there's obviously there would be the legal side of things. But then there's also the court of public opinion.
Absolutely.
So, like, if the Hickmans and Weiss come out and say, like, yeah, Wizards really, like, screwed us over hard and explain it all, that's going to really sour the public's opinion on Wizards of the Coast, especially all the Dragonlance fans. So it might have been Wizards who was just like, you know what, we'll figure it out, we'll make it work.
Yeah. I think that's probably exactly what happened, because the lawsuit was very much about the books not being able to come out. They were like stopping on that because approvals. The legalese off it was literally they were being told, whatever you put in, we're not going to approve it. So
change it.
The contract says you can put the book out, but I'm telling you, I'm not going to let you put the book out. So
right. Yeah.
That was kind of like the biggest reason for that to go to court, I guess. But yeah, we don't know what happened, but obviously there is a tension between all the parties involved, and it did sour a little bit.
Yeah.
The audience response to it is like, why are these guys not giving them their space, not pulling them in? Every time somebody comments, like they ask, like, are they in this book? And literally, like, I feel like Margaret is jumping in every time that she sees a reference to it to say, no, we didn't know about this.
Yeah, I feel Keith Baker kind of feels similarly with Eberron. Like, he was more involved, it seemed like, but there's a reason he's doing all of his own stuff on the DM's Guild, because
there's still a relationship there.
But yeah, he's still, I think he's not 100% happy with everything they're doing with his world. Yeah. But, he's kind of, it seems more amicable, their relationship.
Yeah. But we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see.
We'll see what comes next. So, Ted, for people over in our Spanish community, Spanish-speaking community. Where can they find you? What do you do over on the internet?
Sure. The best place to go would probably be Nerd Immersion on YouTube. That's where most of the following is. But I'm on just about every social media out there. You can keep up to date on Twitter, or if you like short form content, TikTok and things of that nature. But YouTube would be your best bet.
Okay, we appreciate the time.
Yeah, of course.
And see when we bump into each other again.
At the next convention.